Welcome to the show, YouTube peeps. Smash like and subscribe as we discuss some European giants. Vamos! 3 match days in and Man City and Liverpool have already dropped points. Is their streak of EPL dominance over? Elsewhere, Juventus still seem to be struggling to reassert their stronghold over the Scudetto title race. Can Allegri recapture the glory days? And with 17 goals scored, yes, you heard me, 17 goals in their first 3 matches of Ligue campaign, could PSG go the full season undefeated? I'm joined by Mike Lahoud, Jonathan Johnson to discuss these questions and much, much more. Que Golazo begins right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to Que Golazo. Thank you so much for being part of the family. LME here, Mike Lahoud, Jonathan Johnson. Thank you so much for being part of the fam. 20,000, 20 plus, 20.3, I believe. Getting closer to 20.1. Hey, listen, I want 25,000 subscribers before, before Halloween. So make it happen. Let's make it happen, baby. Mike Lahoud, great job yesterday against Liverpool. Great job with James Bench as well. How are you, buddy? I'm sure you're in a great mood.
Oh, man, I was just putting the cigarette out before the show. It's that good. I don't even smoke cigarettes. Imaginary cigarette out. Jeez, I'm in one of the best moods I've been in a long time. Was super stressed before yesterday's match. Drank 2 cups of coffee. I only do that when I'm stressed. But now I'm ready to go for the show. And you know what? Come on, United. Come on, United.
Very good result for Michael Lahoud's Manchester United. Jonathan Johnson, what's up, buddy?
Hey there, guys. Great to be back on with you. Glad that Mike didn't follow in Erik ten Hag's footsteps and drop the F-bomb, but no, happy for him. It didn't get as demoralizing as I perhaps expected it to against Liverpool, but very, very interesting. Puts a cat amongst the pigeons now for sure. Sad to see the decline of James Milner a little bit as a Villa fan, but you know, I've got other woes on my mind, Villa related at this moment in time.
Yeah, James Milner is the last of our worries, and then we're gonna get into it, of course. But welcome everybody, welcome to our show. As I mentioned, Que Golazo Pod on Twitter, youtube.com/Que Golazo. Mike Lahoud, Jonathan Johnson. We're here to discuss, the latest news, not transfer related. We got Fabrizio Romano joining on Wednesday for recapping a little bit of the action as well. And you already have a full episode with the aforementioned Mike Lahoud and James Bench discussing Manchester United's great win against Liverpool. So today it really kind of relates to that. The first topic of the day is about the Premier League title race, but it's overall the Premier League race in general regarding the top 6 fights for a European place, whatever. And usually, Mike Lahoud, it's been the case that, we're going to see those 99-point seasons with Manchester City, Liverpool getting away with it. And yes, it's only, match day 3 gone, still plenty of football to be played, but something continues to surface in my mind, which is I feel that the margin of perfection between your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your so-called top 6 is much thinner than, your Newcastles, your Brightons, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? What are these, what are you making of these match days after match day 3? And are the days of the 99-point seasons, are they over?
I think they're coming to an end because the rest of the competition is getting better. We see that epitomized. Newcastle last season got just bum smacked 5-0 in their own backyard. This game, they looked like world beaters for about 60 minutes because Haaland did score that goal around that time. But Newcastle taking it to City, beating them just in the woodshed. But then the quality of the Manchester Cities, I think the quality of the Liverpools will still shine through. And for the rest of the Premier League, that fear factor that surrounds some of the top 6 teams is ebbing away. Chelsea look very beatable. Leeds proved that. Manchester United look like, Champions League winners and made Liverpool, I'm going to say that again, look like Champions League winners because JJ didn't even blink when I said that. I said that to get a rise out of you.
One game beating Liverpool and look.
No, but you got to be in the Champions League to win it, my friend.
I know. But to round out that point, the rest of the competition is getting better, and that's going to take points. That's really going to push the Manchester Cities, the Liverpools to the limit. And Manchester City needs a Liverpool to get to that 100-point threshold or 90-point threshold. If you look at the last couple seasons when they've gotten 90-plus points, it's been Liverpool or United behind their shoulders, but it's been those matchups against Liverpool going down to the wire that pushes you towards that ultimate threshold. This year, they may not get that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate Mike trying to bait me into a rise there early on, but no, I mean, I think it's maybe a bit early to say for sure. The sort of 99-point seasons are sort of going away, but I do think that we're already into the sort of territory where we might not see Liverpool featuring in that. I mean, I'm sure that they will, return to form and pick up points pretty soon. But, I don't think that they're necessarily going to be the ones pushing Man City all the way unless they can get over this blip in form. But then again, you've got, a team like Arsenal who looks so well-oiled, well-drilled, starting the season like a house on fire. If they can maintain that, if, their confidence grows even more, then perhaps they could be surprise candidates who push City. And I think, if anything, City could do with that variety more than anything, because we still expect them to be sort of, the standard bearers in the Premier League as far as, setting the pace goes for the title race. But to have a team like Arsenal, setting the early pace slightly ahead of them, that gives them something to chase at this point in the season, because otherwise they could be looking over their shoulders at the likes of Liverpool and United, despite United being slightly on the rise after yesterday, and maybe not have that same motivation. So I'm not convinced just yet that we're not going to see two teams absolutely dominated and finish sort of, around the sort of 99-point mark. But, I do generally agree with Mike's sentiment, and that is that, the quality is improving. And if 99-point seasons disappear, then I'm all for it, because that means that Villa have a slightly slim chance of picking up some points against some of these bigger teams at some point.
That means that we end the season with 45 points instead of 40. It's great.
Exactly. I mean, I'm full of negativity, unfortunately, about Villa at the moment. I'm dreading the cup clash against Bolton. But fingers crossed.
Listen, I'm Captain Optimism 24/7 right now. It's like, Mike, I know you want to chime in before we move on.
LME, I'm surprised you're not Captain Morgan's right now with how Villa are playing. I was tempted to be almost about to bring the full handle to the United match yesterday if it was just going to go down to Hades. But just when we speak of Arsenal, everything's going so well. Gabriel Jesus, life is good. It's paradise. It ends 9-4 against United. Just want to put that out there. I wish James Benz was there. Man. I'm saying, I'm a United fan. When it's bad, it's bad. When it's good, it's great. But to finish up, just when you look at that table and some of those seasons of the past, Wolverhampton, LME, I think we all talked about it. You put it in your teams to get relegated. Wolves in trouble. I think Wolves and Brighton have become the new Wolves. They play a different style, but could we see them maintain their stay within that top six? Last season, they were a team that not many teams wanted to play. They ran out of steam towards the end of the season, but this could be a well-oiled Brighton machine that could find their way in that slippery slope in that top six, for sure, top 10, but I could see them staying put in that top six.
Yeah, let me jump just very quickly about Brighton. I think my only thing about this conversation right now is that we're missing out on two key factors of why I think it's happening and why possibly the 99-point seasons may be over. One of them is money. Newcastle United, obviously the richest club in the world. Clubs are getting, Villa or anybody else getting rich American owners, or just the money.
Forest suddenly discovering a new lease to their bank.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Nottingham Forest is a perfect example. So the money coming into the Premier League, the richest league in the world, is a key factor. But then, Mike Lahoud, you bring in Brighton, which is my other example, which is sometimes you also get a club that's really well ran, like just from top to bottom. And that's Brighton. They know how to make business. You sell a Cucurella for like 70 million and you bring in Pervis Estupiñán for way less. That's the kind of business that helps a club. And then, oh, by the way, you happen to have the most talented English manager out there in Graham Potter. Then you have teams that are doing really good stuff. So I think
Villa fan might add.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. A very big Villa fan, so I'm really hoping for things in the future. But the point is this: we are now entering the Premier League journey where money and now quality of coaching and development is all over the place. It's not just in the top 4 and the top 6, and I think that's a massive thing. JJ, bring us home before we move on if you wanted to bring something up.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're just underscoring my early season depression with Villa, because we're like, I feel like we have half of that. We've had the money, we've had the backing of the manager in the transfer window, yet we're not really seeing the results at this moment in time. Fingers crossed it turns around, but I do think that you're right. I think that, it was always inevitable that, the sort of top 6 was going to get larger and sort of turn into more of like a top 8, top 10, with the amounts of money that was swirling around the Premier League. So it doesn't surprise me, now, especially with the addition of a Newcastle, potentially with the addition of like a Nottingham Forest as well, and the way that they're changing their squad, that there's going to be even more competition. I mean, we saw a few years ago Wolves as well spending big, bringing in, boosting that, sizable Portuguese contingent that they have. There are a lot of quality teams, in the Premier League, even some of the ones sort of knocking sort of in and around the bottom of the table at the moment. I mean, look at West Ham, haven't scored a goal yet. Wait for that to change at the weekend at Villa Park. But, it's a loaded squad. Yet their sort of the early season relegation battle is based on the first few matches.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, if you ended the season right now, Arsenal, Man City, Leeds, and Tottenham are in the Champions League, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, speaking of the Champions League, which, by the way, you can watch exclusively on CBS Sports, Paramount Plus, till at least 2030, by the way. So our place, Que Golazo, will be part of that, of course, throughout the time. We'll have previews, we'll have recaps. As always, our team will be covering it. And it kind of all begins this Thursday, really, because we're going to be doing a Champions League live draw, baby. Make sure that you tune in. The fam will be there. Our team will be there, and we'll discuss every single group and our aspirations or hopes to see some of the best storylines for the Champions League 2022-2023 season. That's on Thursday, by the way, which Desnars remind me, I think it's around 12 p.m., 1 p.m. Eastern, I believe, is when we'll probably go live, but the draw's around that time. Yep, 12 p.m. Eastern, correct. So make sure that you check that out. More information to follow. But let's move on, everybody. From the Champions League draw, let's go to one of the top leagues in Europe, in Serie A, which also you can watch on CBS Sports. Very quickly here, Jonathan Johnson, Juventus. There we were thinking, well, they're kind of back after seeing them in match day 1. But then kind of like bereft of ideas against Sampdoria. There were little worrying times here for USMNT fans. I'm sure Mike will chime in regarding Weston McKennie. I thought things were going well for Allegri and co after match day 1. What did you make of them after this dreary draw against Sampdoria and their hopes for doing better, I guess?
Yeah, obviously a disappointing result for Juventus. And I think, Allegri must be really frustrated at the moment. I mean, you look at what has been happening sort of on the transfer market. He wants to make changes to that Juve squad. He wants to add the likes of Alejandro Paredes to his group. Didn't want, to keep Adrian Rabiot on, who of course had a goal ruled out, through VAR. And I think he must feel sort of hamstrung at the moment because he's sort of half changed his team and half been unable to. And I think until he's able to fully action those changes, he's not going to be able to get Juve playing the way that he wants them to. But I think as well, with all due respect, when you sort of detach sort of maybe the spine of this Juve team, you got your Vlahovic, you got your Locatelli. Otherwise, that's a pretty underwhelming Juve side that you're looking at on paper. I know that they spent big on Bremer over the summer, but then you look at some of the other names in that team. You got your likes of, your Raganis, Rabiot unwanted. You got Cuadrado as well. For me, it doesn't really set the pulses racing. And I think, it's too early to say that Juve are in crisis. But I think if Juve don't manage to make the moves that Allegri wants them to between now and the end of the transfer window, then, I think that serious questions will be asked and he will be frustrated, at their inability to rejuvenate, for want of a better term. Well, actually, it's the perfect term, this group, because, Juve have had that issue where the group has kind of been stagnating, aging for a while now. And we saw, how far behind, the leading pack they were last season. I was convinced it's going to be different this campaign, but I don't know, this result's starting to make me think twice.
When you look at this team, injuries are the difference between this team being the team where they turn heads and the team we saw against Sampdoria. Angel Di Maria, his quality, his class, not there. Paul Pogba, probably in Qatar doing what he did with United, posting Instagram pics with Jesse Lingard. Oh, Jesse Lingard actually plays football now. Never mind. And Chiesa's still out. Those are 3 quality, world-class players. And I put Chiesa in that with what he showed in the Euros. That's a completely different team when you get those players healthy. Filip Kostic looked a bit rusty, but he looked the most likely to be a spark plug. Had a couple opportunities in terms of wing play down the left-hand side, and late in the game, he had that volleyed attempt that if he put it anywhere other than into the ground or right at the goalkeeper, that's the match winner. And it just had that feeling of it just wasn't going to be their night, and just the dark cloud looming over them. It's Serie A. It's not how you start. It's how you pick up towards the middle of the season. And then I'm not overwhelmingly worried about this Juve team. What I am worried about is the fitness of their star players. If they get fit and get back in time, I know Paul Pogba is a longer-term injury, but when they get a Chiesa, when Di Maria comes back and hopefully stays healthy, I'm not worried about this Juve team. I think they'll deliver.
Yeah, it's true that, it's very early in the season, and there's a Liverpool theme to this, right? Where sometimes Juve start slow and then they pick it up a little bit. It was Sampdoria, though, somebody that ended 15th last season, nothing much, and it was the first home game of the season. But to your point, Mike, I think key absentees are a big factor here. Very quick about Weston McKennie. What are your thoughts about him? Because, on his day, he's the best American male player out there. I think, on his day, like definitely. But, sometimes I feel, is Juventus the best place for him? Because last weekend we were talking about the fact that now that you're able to push him a little bit higher and he's free of not having to stay so stuck in the middle, he can push up, play behind the striker. Sometimes that can be a problem with Allegri's Juventus. That he's not, no mean of disrespect, but he's not exactly the most creative manager when it comes to thinking what to do in the final third. What do you think of McKennie overall as he pushes, of course, to not just be fit, but also be ready to go for the USMNT when November comes around?
I think for him right now, it's the place for him to be because he's playing at the highest level he can in one of the biggest leagues he can. Longer term, I think after the season, I would reassess where the best place for him to be. When you're looking at the World Cup, you want to be playing against some of the best players in the world, and Christian Pulisic is a different situation than Pulisic because at least McKennie's getting starts. Pulisic coming off the bench, getting only a handful of minutes. In this game, what worried me about McKennie is he looked a bit lost. There was an opportunity in the first half where Juve trying to break down a team. Weston McKennie, when he's playing for Juventus against teams that sit in a low block, he tends to look a little bit more lost, and he thrives when the game's a bit more open and Juve are hitting on the counter. I think under Allegri, you could see him being used more as a role player and saying, okay, this is a game where we're going to be able to use your athleticism and ability to cover ground. You're in, you can make a difference. Against the Sampdorias, against the Cremonese, I can't even say the name. You know what I'm talking about. Cremonese against the Monzas. Maybe that's where he gets his valuable minutes. But against stubborn teams where it's not working out for him, I just think it's going to be a struggle for him. But, hey, this is where, as a young player, you grow up. Are you going to quit when it gets really difficult? And I think USMNT fans are going to want to see him see this through and grow up and become better.
I mean, I think you both hit the nail on the head. I mean, Mike mentioned, sort of what McKennie brings to the team, sort of in terms of his athleticism, that vibrancy. And LME also hinted at it that, he's also not fully fit. I mean, is there not a case to be made that he's almost been rushed back too soon because of absences elsewhere in the team, which is sort of impairing his ability to perform properly? And is actually kind of a threat for the USMNT ahead of the World Cup because, what if he suddenly breaks down physically, does some long-term damage, misses sort of weeks, months of the season, and then is absolutely not ready to go by November. So I think, Allegri is playing a bit of a dangerous game, relying on him so heavily, given that he was injured recently. But also, I think it's also probably going to strengthen Allegri's hand when he goes to the Juve board and demands that these moves are made now, because he's got to use players, A, that he doesn't want to use, B, that he perhaps shouldn't be using or relying on as much as he is at this moment in time. And he has the targets in mind that he wants to bring in and needs that backing from the board in order to bring them in and, look after his squad and actually get them lined up in the way that he does. So I think, it is kind of worrying to see sort of McKennie being used so heavily sort of from a USMNT perspective, and if Juve, don't make any moves between now and the end of the transfer window, as I was saying earlier, then I think that the chances of seeing McKennie sort of run into the ground before the World Cup, increase massively.
Well, I'll tell you who's saying cry me a river when it comes to, I need players, I need whatever. And that's Napoli, who had to say goodbye to a lot of very key players, a lot of leaders in that team. And look at them right now, by the way, opening with a tremendous victory, 5-2 against Verona. And then they beat Monza 4-0. I mean, this team is clicking, Jonathan Johnson. They're leading the table. Obviously, it's just 2 matches in, but a lot of us were worried about where Napoli was going to go after the exits of Dries Mertens, of course, Insigne, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts over Napoli and their great start to the season?
Yeah, I was really curious to see how it would play out with Napoli with so many changes. The one thing I guess I would say, and I've seen a number of people, saying it within our pool of experts on Calcio, and that's that, Napoli haven't actually played one of the stronger teams in the league yet. You're playing, with all due respect to the teams, not bottom feeders, but teams that I guess, would define as sort of middling. We'll have to wait and see how Napoli really perform against one of the bigger sides. But I think that their overhaul of the squad this summer has been quite impressive. There's still moves to be made. I think adding Keylor Navas to any squad is, always going to be a big, big boost. That he brings in points single-handedly. And we'll see if Napoli have a couple of other tricks left up their sleeve before the end of the transfer window as well. But I'm impressed with this Napoli side so far. And let's not forget that they started last season like a house on fire as well under Spalletti. So I think they'll be motivated to keep that fire going throughout the entire season. But I think as long as Osimhen is fit, Napoli are always going to be a threat, to Serie A defenses. And as long as, he remains the main man, I think that, they have, reasons for optimism. I think that overhaul of the squad, what was quite an aging team, really needed to happen and arguably came a bit later than it perhaps should have done. And you look at the way Koulibaly performed for Chelsea against Leeds over the weekend, and you wonder why Napoli fought so hard to keep him when teams were, queuing up to pay them 80 million or whatever it was that he was linked with moves away for a couple of years ago.
This is clearly Spalletti's team, and they have an experienced manager who knows how to get it done with young talent. And I think the fact that they got younger, the fact that they don't have players who have contract disputes. Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? Dries Mertens, I'm thinking of him. Over the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've seen his play drop quite a bit because there was always uncertainty around whether he was going to stay or go. Koulibaly, is he going to stay or is he going to go? And I think there's more of a settled field, a unified field. And when I look at their most recent performance, what gives me room for optimism is this is a Napoli team under previous managers that, yes, they have attackers who get goals, but their midfielders chipped in. Every midfielder had an assist in this past weekend's game. And a thriving Napoli is a dynamic Napoli in midfield, not just up front. And one of the newcomers, Cavada, this guy seems to be lighting it up. And his combination play with a striker and a focal point like Osimhen, that combination could be what helps them really stay near the top. And Lozano, he's a guy that, although he hasn't scored, he looks a lot more lively. He's going to bring the energy. He's going to bring good wing play. Now can he get off the mark and get a goal? I think it's coming for him.
Yeah, great stuff from Napoli so far. But as we all said, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So let's see how they do there. Somebody that doesn't need a reminder that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon is Christophe Galtier, one of the best managers out there, of course, leading now Paris Saint-Germain. My God, Jonathan Johnson, 17 goals already for PSG. The game against Lille, by the way, he only won the league like only 2 seasons ago. They are something fierce, and they thought they'd be a title contender. And wow, look at this, 7-1. Watching these highlights, JJ, was to me like just watching like a FIFA world-class player against like playing his mom or something. Like it was just ridiculous. The opening goal, of course, the fastest goal in Ligue on history, 8 seconds. I mean, fantastic stuff out of the training ground, but it was just everywhere. The trio is clicking. Can this continue, JJ? And how surprised, I guess, are you by this ridiculous start?
Joint fastest goal in Ligue 1 history. I think it's the fastest goal in Opta history, but I think they've only been recording the data since like
Never
2006.
question Jonathan Johnson's statistical mind.
No, but honestly, I mean, I'm kind of torn about that opening goal because, I mean, I think PSG need to be applauded for, being quite inventive about the way that they targeted it. I mean, part of me really wonders if it's because of Galtier's knowledge of Jose Fonch's game, that he knew that the defense would be
so high up the pitch. JJ, combination of all of it. I mean, it was clearly you could see that they did that in training.
He admitted it after the game. They practiced it, but for Galtier to identify that would happen was impressive. But I think Paulo Fonseca would have been distraught with his defense allowing that to happen. I don't think that any teams will be getting any gifts like that anytime soon. But, unfortunately, that kind of thing that early in the game against PSG, I mean, it kills you. I mean, there was the article in The Athletic that, whipped up a bit of controversy on Twitter last week about how Bayern should start a goal down. Many people sort of feel, the same way about PSG as well. But then when you see one of the teams that should really be able to push them a bit better than the likes of the Clermonts and the Montpelliers doing that, throwing a goal away inside of the opening 10 seconds, it's pretty frustrating because, I think that Ligue 1 gets a bad rep overall because it is more competitive, in my opinion, than many people give it credit for. But then again, when you've got guys like Neymar, Messi on form in the way that they are, I mean, you look at that second goal, that is vintage Messi, Neymar brilliance. I mean, it's, it was phenomenal to watch at times. The thing that people are hoping at the moment, myself included, is that PSG can really translate this seriousness that they've had about them since the start of the season to the continental stage, because it's all well and good them doing it in Ligue 1, but it only really counts if they can maintain it across Ligue 1, the Coupe de France, and the Champions League, because, they could be the most dominant team in French footballing history. They could go and have an unbeaten season, which, they haven't managed to do yet. Nantes hold the record from back in 1995 for that. And it's something I've always felt that PSG should target. They really could have done it under Laurent Blanc, I felt, but they now have a great opportunity to do it like this. You do have to wonder how the World Cup is going to impact them during the season, whether the players are going to maintain that same level of motivation, but you can't argue with the way that they've started. And I think as well, I mean, it's difficult to win when you're trying to have a conversation about PSG, because either, they dominate the league and it's bad for Ligue 1, or, they take it seriously and they're still dominating the league. I think it is damaging for Ligue 1 when they're not at full strength and they're still sort of romping to victory, but that doesn't always happen. They sometimes get caught out by a Monaco or by a Lille, as you mentioned. But, for them to be applied like this, if they can do it across all fronts, then, I think, it is going to be a PSG to be reckoned with this season.
I think the difference between the PSGs and the club like Bayern, who stroll through their league and dominate, as well as the consistency of the mentality, and now they have a coach. In this match, what struck me wasn't just the play on the field. It looked like a training match. Messi, I said I was putting out a cigarette. Messi was putting out a cigarette, cigar, and the bottle of whiskey down in the game, strolling through this game. Is the intensity of Galtier. I think he's brought this intensity. He was pacing the touchline as if they were down a goal from minute 0 to minute 90. And I know because Lille is near and dear to his heart because of what he was able to do there, but there's just this intensity and focus that you see throughout the team for 90 minutes, and this ruthlessness. When it was at halftime, in seasons past, you'd see them strolling through, maybe Neymar doing a couple step overs, couple tricks, Messi walking around, but there was this desire to score more goals, this desire to really embarrass and humiliate Lille because they can. The Bayern Munichs, that Bayern team that won the treble, that won the Champions League, they had that ruthlessness no matter who they played. I mean, they put Messi's Barcelona, they humiliated them because they could, because they wanted to send a message to the rest of Europe that it was their year, it was their trophy, and there's nothing anyone could do about it. In terms of teams who could compete, Lille, sorry, not your year. I think it's a two-horse race. I think Marseille, although they got very fortunate in their win at the weekend, own goal was the difference, and Lyon, the team no one's talking about. Lyon have the experience. Lacazette looks right back at home. Tolisso, Tete getting a couple goals, and Paqueta. This is a team that on their day could catch a PSG team off their day, and especially if they meet up in and around, whether it's cup competition or league competition, in and around World Cup friendlies and World Cup play starting up.
Yeah, I see this PSG side, and I think I've said this before. I compare them a little bit to like an NBA dynasty team, or even the dream team, right? Where it's like if the talent is ready and they're focused and they're ready to go. In this case, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar. If they're, to your point, Mike, if they're like focused and willing to give it their all. I mean, a hardworking Neymar is such a great motivator for the entire squad. Because if he does that, and Galtier has already said it, it's like he got one of the things that Galtier is so good at is he knows that a certain player just needs that stroke of ego. Just caress him a little bit and make him understand that you are so important, but we need you to be to this level. That's what he's doing with Neymar Jr., and Neymar Jr. is responding. So that's why I compare them to an NBA dynasty team, because the Phil Jacksons and the Bulls, or Phil Jackson and the Lakers, etc. You have the talent, but you need a coach that can motivate you when things get hard in training, etc. And if you have that, then everybody be scared, because then PSG is ready to go. Now, the Champions League, to me, is obviously their ultimate objective. Like, you got to represent there and you got to make it count. But I have no doubt that at the very least, they now have a manager that knows exactly what to do with this team, both strategically and just from a man management perspective, because that's the key with PSG. Keep them happy. Keep Mbappe happy. Keep Neymar happy. Keep Messi happy. And after that, if they're willing to give it their all, everybody else behind them will be like, oh, man, the trio's going for it. Eminem's going for it, then we're going to go for it as well. And I think that that's going to be the key component. So it's good.
There's one key figure as well who enables Galtier to do that. And to his credit, he's someone I think we wrote off a while back, but Sergio Ramos, when you have him fit and suddenly
just a dressing room voice,
able to actually bring something on the pitch, that experience, when you suddenly tap into that, takes you up a level. And he has been earning rave reviews so far since the start of the season. I mean, to be honest, any review of Sergio Ramos this season was going to be rave compared to last season, because he barely got on the pitch. But for PSG to actually now finally be able to get something out of him, that's a real boon for them. And to be fair, we're talking about PSG's attacking brilliance. There are still some vulnerabilities in that defense. They haven't been tested just yet. I think they're going to have issues later on down the line because they don't look, completely watertight at the back. And, if Ramos does get injured, then suddenly there's issues about depth. But, for now, it's started well. It'll be a decent test this weekend against Monaco. I'm a bit disappointed by them so far this season. So they've got a point to prove in the capital. But, I do think that Ramos does make a huge difference, not only in the way that PSG are playing and setting up, but in being able to transmit those important messages from Galtier to the likes of a Neymar.
Absolutely spot on. And when you have more dressing room voices like that, the better they are for it. All right, let's wrap things up here. Let's just do final thoughts here. Thank you so much for being part of the family. We've got plenty more to come this week. Fabrizio Romano live, our weekend preview as well. Champions League draw, plenty of good shows for you to come. Mike Lahoud, before we say goodbye, buddy, final thoughts.
I'm disappointed you didn't mention Jeff Van Gundy as a Knicks fan in that run of great managers. Well, that's enough. We
didn't win the title. That's why.
Yeah. I just keep thinking of that brawl with him holding on. I think it's Melo's leg or Nate Robinson's leg or someone's leg. Just the posterizing of that seared in my brain. No, final thoughts from me is I can't wait for the Champions League draw. A team, and I know we talk a lot about English teams, but I want to see who Tottenham Hotspurs are in the pot with, who the PSGs, who some of these teams that are hoping for big seasons, who are they going to play in the Champions League? Because a lot of their stock, a lot of their rosters that they've assembled is to compete and to really make a run at it. And could they get an easy group, or would they be benefited from having a difficult group so they're tested by the time they get to the knockout round should they qualify?
Well, luckily for you guys, my final thoughts come before Villa play and not after them. We'll see how I'm feeling about that later on in the week. But no, I mean, life's good otherwise right now, football-wise. I mean, you got Betis winning again at the weekend. My tip for a team to watch in La Liga. So happy to see how that's going. We've got a bit of midweek cup action coming along as well. You know, keeping an eye on the Champions League qualifiers before the draw as well. I'm really keen to see how that Rangers PSV clash shakes out, poised quite nicely at 2-2. So no, lots to look forward to in the soccer world this week, and looking forward to picking over more of it with you guys as the week progresses.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jonathan Johnson. Thank you so much, Mike Lahoud. Make sure to follow Jonathan Johnson, John_LeGossip at Mike Lahoud. As we mentioned, plenty of content to come. If you want a more extensive recap of last night's Manchester United win against Liverpool, Mike talked to James Bench, and we obviously have as well much more to come, including Fabrizio Romano coming on Wednesday, weekend preview, weekend recap, and so much more. LME, JJ, Mike Lahoud, Que Golazo. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you next time. Till then, bye-bye.